The longest animal on Earth isn't a whale. It's nearly 4 times longer than the largest blue whale ever recorded. It's not one body, it's thousands of clones functioning as a single predator. And scientists found it by accident, 600 meters below the surface. If we missed something this large, what else is hiding in the deep? In April 2020, deep beneath the Indian Ocean off Western Australia, a remotely operated vehicle descended into the Ningaloo Canyons. The research team aboard the Schmidt Ocean Institute's vessel Falkor had been exploring the seafloor at 600 meters depth for weeks, cataloguing new species in one of Earth's least explored ecosystems. But as the ROV ascended back toward the surface, commuting through the empty water column, the cameras captured something that stopped the entire team cold. A massive spiral, translucent, glowing faintly with bioluminescence, perfectly formed, like some alien galaxy floating in the darkness. At first, marine biologist Dr. Nerida Wilson couldn't process what she was seeing. The formation was so geometric, so impossibly large, that it didn't register as biological. Siphonophores typically drift like strings or loose tangles, but this one had coiled itself into a feeding posture, a spiral so vast that when they measured it, the outer ring alone stretched 47 meters across. That's 154 feet, the size of half a football field. But the spiral wasn't solid. It was a living rope wound through space. When they calculated the total length, unwinding it in their minds, the numbers climbed higher and higher. 119 meters, nearly 400 feet. See, the Ningaloo Canyons aren't just any dive site. They're a biodiversity hotspot. Submarine canyons carved into the continental shelf, creating vertical walls that plunge thousands of meters into the abyss. The water currents funnel nutrients upward, creating ecosystems teeming with life found nowhere else on Earth. And in that canyon, drifting silently through the darkness, was the longest animal ever recorded. As the ROV circled, taking measurement after measurement, one thing became undeniable. This wasn't a measurement error or a cluster of organisms. The footage was consistent. The structure held together as one unified being, pulsing gently in the current, its zooids coordinating in perfect synchrony. What emerged was a portrait of an organism so large that it instantly shattered every assumption about the limits of colonial life. News hit like a thunderclap. When Dr. Wilson first showed the footage to other marine biologists, they ran the calculations again and again, convinced the measurements had to be wrong, but they weren't. The imaging data pointed to a siphonophore longer than a blue whale, longer than any organism ever documented. This wasn't just a big animal. This was the longest animal on Earth. And its size implied something profound about deep-sea ecosystems, about cooperation and integration in biology, about forms of life we're only beginning to understand. A creature this massive could only exist in the stable, quiet depths where turbulence doesn't tear fragile bodies apart. What kind of evolutionary pressure creates monsters like this? Siphonophores are absurdly strange. Most species measure just a few meters long, but some deep-sea varieties like Praia dubia regularly reach over 40 meters, and this specimen nearly tripled that. For context, the largest blue whale ever measured was about 30 meters long, So this Siphonophore was 4 times longer than the largest whale. But here's what I find fascinating. How do scientists even determine if something this fragmented is a single organism? Well, Siphonophores follow a unique biological pattern. They're colonial animals, meaning they're made up of thousands of tiny clones called zooids, each one genetically identical, all budded from a single fertilized egg. The zooids are connected by a gastrovascular canal that distributes nutrients throughout the entire chain. So, marine biologists can observe the coordination, watch how the zooids pulse in synchrony, how they share digested food, how they respond to stimuli as one entity, and conclude they're looking at a single superorganism. But there's a deeper question here. What even defines an individual? See, each zooid is multicellular. Each one is technically an organism with its own tissues and structures, but none can survive alone. Cut one free from the colony and it dies within hours. They've lost their independence completely, and that blurs every intuitive boundary we have about what makes something one versus many. Think about it this way. Your body is made of 37 trillion cells. None of them can survive outside you, but we don't call you a colony, we call you an individual. Siphonophores exist somewhere in between. Each zooid is not a cell, it's a complete organism. But they function as one predator. So, when scientists found this 119-meter giant, they weren't just looking at a record-breaking animal. They were looking at a living paradox, a biological question mark about cooperation, integration, and the nature of individuality itself. And it revealed a form of life operating on scales we barely comprehend. To understand this Siphonophore, you have to understand its world. Step back into the deep ocean 600 meters below the surface, where sunlight fades to nothing and the environment becomes unrecognizable to us. The pressure here is 60 times atmospheric pressure. The temperature hovers just above freezing. There's no turbulence, no storms, just a quiet, stable darkness that's existed unchanged for millions of years. In this world, gelatinous bodies thrive. Without wave action to tear them apart, creatures can grow delicate, transparent, enormous. A body that would disintegrate in surface currents can drift peacefully here, extending tentacles tens of meters in every direction, forming invisible nets of death. No bones needed, no rigid structures, just water and protein, held together by coordination between thousands of clones. Siphonophores don't fight gravity because they're neutrally buoyant, 99% water. They don't need speed because prey drifts to them. They don't need brains because chemical signals traveling slowly through the colony are enough to coordinate hunting and movement. For an organism like this, the deep sea removes every constraint. Modern surface-dwelling Siphonophores, like the Portuguese man-o'-war, are limited by waves and turbulence. They rarely exceed a few meters because rough water tears them apart. To push beyond that into giant territory requires the calm of the deep ocean, conditions that have remained stable for millions of years. This Siphonophore couldn't survive in shallow water. Its massive, delicate body needed that deep-sea stillness to exist at all. The Ningaloo Canyons provided perfect habitat. Layer after layer of depth creates zones where different species thrive. The canyon walls are covered in filter-feeding sponges and corals. The water column teems with jellyfish, salps, and drifting predators. This is not a barren desert, it's a vertical rainforest, a three-dimensional ecosystem where nutrients rise from below and sunlight filters down from above, creating layers of life stacked from surface to abyss. Visibility is limited. Bioluminescence is the primary light source. In such an environment, transparency is the ultimate advantage. A giant siphonophore can hang motionless in the water column, its body invisible, its tentacles extending in a vast net. Prey, swimming through the darkness, has no warning. One moment, they're moving freely, the next, they've brushed against a tentacle, and nematocysts fire, injecting venom in milliseconds. The prey is paralyzed instantly, reeled toward a feeding zooid, and consumed whole. The nutrients are shared throughout the colony via the gastrovascular canal. Every zooid benefits from every kill. The siphonophore in this context is not an accident. It is a direct, logical outcome of deep-sea conditions. Stable temperatures, no turbulence, abundant drifting prey, and darkness that rewards invisibility. So here's the question everyone wants to know. How does a siphonophore actually hunt? Well, forget everything you've seen in nature documentaries. Siphonophores aren't active predators chasing down prey. This isn't a shark or a squid, a 119-meter-long chain of gelatinous zooids doesn't sprint after fish. It doesn't need to. In the deep ocean, strategy beats speed. Siphonophores are ambush predators of the most patient kind. They hang in the water column, nearly motionless, and wait. Their tentacles extend outward, sometimes tens of meters, forming a net. The tentacles are lined with tentilla, small branches covered in nematocysts, the same stinging cells jellyfish use. When prey touches a tentilla, even lightly, the nematocysts explode outward in less than a millisecond, firing microscopic harpoons loaded with toxins into the victim. The venom is neurotoxic, targeting the nervous system. For small fish and crustaceans, it's instant death. The tentacle contracts, pulling the prey toward the nearest gastrozoid, the feeding polyp. The gastrozoid opens its mouth and swallows the prey whole, beginning digestion immediately. The nutrients are absorbed and distributed through the shared canal to every zooid in the colony. What's remarkable is the efficiency. Siphonophores don't waste energy chasing prey that might escape. They create an invisible trap and let the ocean bring food to them. Some species have evolved even more sophisticated tricks. The genus Irena, found in deep waters, has bioluminescent lures at the tips of its tentacles that glow red, mimicking the bioluminescence of copepods. Fish see the lures, mistake them for prey, and swim directly into the stinging net.
Its deception evolved over millions of years. Based on the ecosystem observed in the Ningaloo canyons, this giant siphonophore's diet likely included small fish, lanternfish migrating through the water column at night, jellyfish and other gelatinous organisms drifting past, crustaceans like shrimp and krill, and possibly even other siphonophores. Cannibalism is common among colonial organisms when food is scarce. The ocean wasn't just its hunting ground, it was its entire existence. The water supported its massive length through buoyancy. Without water, the siphonophore would collapse under its own weight, its zooids unable to function, its tentacles tangling uselessly. It couldn't survive even a minute out of water, and the stable temperature of the deep ocean meant its metabolism could remain constant. No seasonal fluctuations, no temperature stress. In the sweltering surface waters or the freezing abyssal depths, conditions would be too extreme. But at 600 meters in the mesopelagic zone, the temperature stays steady year-round, perfect for a creature with no ability to regulate its own heat.
So, when you imagine this siphonophore, don't picture it as a single, unified body swimming through the ocean. Picture it as a drifting constellation of specialized clones, a living net suspended in darkness, pulsing gently with coordinated movement, its tentacles spread wide, waiting for prey to wander into its invisible embrace. Now, if siphonophores are so successful, if they're found in every ocean from the Arctic to the Antarctic, if they've perfected this strategy over millions of years, why is this the first time anyone filmed one this large? The answer is both simple and humbling. We've barely explored the ocean. Less than 5% of the deep sea has been directly observed by humans. We have better maps of Mars than we do of the ocean floor. The technology to reach these depths, to film in complete darkness, to deploy ROVs that can stay submerged for hours, is relatively new. Before the 21st century, most of what we knew about deep-sea life came from dead specimens pulled up in nets, their gelatinous bodies destroyed by the pressure change. Siphonophores are especially fragile. Bring one to the surface and it disintegrates within minutes, its delicate structure collapsing into formless jelly. Scientists couldn't study them alive. They couldn't measure their true size or observe their behavior. For decades, siphonophores existed in scientific literature as vague descriptions and broken fragments. It wasn't until remotely operated vehicles became standard equipment on research vessels that we could finally see them in their natural habitat. And even then, encounters are rare. The ocean is vast. Siphonophores are transparent. They live in depth ranges we seldom visit. The 2020 discovery was pure accident. The Falcor team wasn't searching for siphonophores. They were mapping the sea floor. The ROV was ascending through the water column, essentially commuting back to the ship, when the cameras happened to pass through the exact spot where this giant was feeding. If they'd ascended an hour earlier, or taken a slightly different path, they would have missed it entirely. The siphonophore would still be there, unknown. The longest animal on Earth that no one had ever seen. And that should make us think. Because if we've missed something this large, this extraordinary, for this long, what else is down there? How many other record-breaking organisms are drifting through the abyss right now, invisible and unknown? Climate doesn't just shape ecosystems, it defines what forms of life are even possible. This siphonophore exists because the deep ocean provides stable, cold, calm conditions. Change those conditions, warm the water, increase turbulence, and creatures like this vanish. Deep-sea mining is coming. Companies want to extract minerals from the sea floor. The scraping, the sediment plumes, the noise and disruption could devastate ecosystems we don't even understand yet. A siphonophore colony, 119 meters long, represents millions of years of evolution. A biological strategy perfected in isolation and stability. It's fragile beyond belief. One significant disturbance and it's gone. We found this creature by accident, filmed it for a few hours, and then the ROV ascended, and the siphonophore disappeared back into the darkness. We don't know how many exist. We don't know their full range or their lifespan. We don't know if this was the largest or if even bigger ones are out there, drifting unseen.
Creating documentaries like this takes months of research, diving into scientific papers, consulting with marine biologists, and piecing together the story of creatures most people will never hear about. If you want to support this kind of deep exploration into the unknown, hit that join button. Your support gives me the time to go deeper, to uncover more stories that challenge what we think we know about life on Earth. Thank you for watching. And until next time, remember,
The ocean is deeper, stranger, and more alive than we can possibly imagine. Keep exploring.